Welcome to the Honorable Mayor Shirley Dixon. Okay, once again, I just want to welcome everyone. And before we get to the mayor's open remarks, I just want to first just thank all the residents, constituents, businesses, faith-based institutions for coming out today. Just want to thank our host neighborhood, Brooklyn. Just want to thank the Brooklyn Homes Tenant Association. I want to thank the Brooklyn Curtis Bay Coalition. And also, I just want to thank the concerned citizens for a better Brooklyn. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. Today is the mayor's first neighborhood conversation in 2008, and we're going to make it really, really special. This is a chance for the mayor to hear your concerns. Mayor Dixon is really, really community-oriented. She want to hear the issues you have as a constituent, as a tax-paying citizen, as you always say. So definitely, this is your opportunity to voice your concerns, any ideas, any resolutions. Mayor Dixon, we hear Mayor Dixon say all the time, you know, if you got a concern, what's your resolution? Now I'm just going to turn it over for some brief opening remarks from Mayor Shirley Dixon. Like I said, this is the first, you're granted the first neighborhood conversation of 2008. And now I'm just going to turn it over to Mayor Shirley Dixon.
Thank you, Cliff. And let me say good evening. I know it was, you know, is it snowing? Is it going to snow hard? Is the meeting going to go on? And I said, well, hey, we can come out even if it's snowing outside. I don't know if you remember when we were at the SNAP meeting. It was like the Saturday after Isabel. And I don't know I can't remember the building we were in, but we were in a cafeteria of one of the schools. Was it this one? With no lights on, and we had a SNAP meeting with all the communities. But I want to acknowledge Councilman Edward Reisinger, who's joined us. Thank you, Councilman, for coming out. Vice President of the City Council. I hope he has a pad here so he can take notes. And thank you, sir. But I want to share something with the Brooklyn and Curtis Bay community. I was at Walmart on I can't remember what day it was. I think it was last Thursday. Could have been Friday. What day was it? No, it wasn't Saturday. Thursday. And my daughter had called me earlier that week because she made a decision not to come home for the holiday. And of course, she said she needed a whole list of items from Sam's and Walmart. And so I went and took a couple hours here and there, and I was at the Walmart after I left the Sam's, which we know the Sam's is closing. And this woman came up to me and she said she worked in Walmart. Do you work in Walmart, sir? Oh, okay. So how did you know I was there? Oh, your mother was there? Small world. Well, to make a long story short, the lady came running down the aisle. She was working there, and she said, "You never come to Brooklyn or Curtis Bay?" I said, "Excuse me, yes, I do." And I said, "I come out here a lot working with the community." And I said, "Do you go to the community meetings?" And I actually meant to, and that's why you gotta, when something's on your mind, you gotta do it right away. Because I meant to email Angela and Cliff and say, send someone out from your team to the Walmart and pass out flyers about the meeting today. But I forgot to do it. When I thought about it this week, it was too late. But, so I thought that was an interesting, but what we should do is probably maybe go to the Walmart one time and have a meeting, community meeting, and get some of those people involved. Because when I asked her the question, she didn't sound like she participated in the community association. I said, well, that's where you would know if I come out to these communities. But it's good to be here today, and really, I want to introduce the cabinet, but we really want to hear from you. We want to find out what your concerns are and how we can together work to resolve issues. I have to say this, though, and I'm not saying it because I'm here in this community, but I have been so impressed and pleased, not since I've been mayor, but when I was city council president, about how you have come together, all of the groups in this community, and are really working on one agenda to continue to build on the strengths of these neighborhoods. And I really want to compliment you for your, not your only your commitment, but your fortitude and your desire for change for the betterment and to make this community what I know it is now, but what it will be in the future. So I want to take a moment, and I'm going to ask the rest of the audience to give you a round of applause if you're not from that community, because they work hard a lot. And sometimes it's like people who live in the Dundalk community. Sometimes people think when they're in the outskirts of certain areas that they aren't treated if you're in the heart of the city. But it's not true. We want to serve the entire city, and so I really want to thank you for what you're doing and continue to build on those strengths of the neighborhoods. Now, how many of you are from the southern part of Baltimore who are here? I saw Sharp Leadenhall in the house. I really can't see, and I complained about this in '07 about the light, because you really can't see out. But I wanted to see, stand up if you're from the community. That way I can, all right. So you working or you from the community tonight? I got you, Chris. Chris is from it. All right, all the community people stand up so I can see who's from the community, business, community leaders versus city agency people. Great, thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's a little icy out, but I appreciate that. And so we're gonna get started. I have about a 6-page speech, no, about 10 pages, but I'm not gonna read it. What I wanna say to you is that during the transition and now the transformation of city government, the objective is to become more customer friendly, to be more effective, more efficient, and to really think out of the box in what our approach is in dealing with our communities. And we've done a lot in this last year. It would probably take us about 4 hours just to talk about many of the changes that have taken place. How many of you participate in the single stream recycling? Great, thank you. We got to get more folks involved in that. How many of you own businesses in this community? Thank you for being here and participating. I know how hard you work with the community as well. And how many of you are students in this community? I met a group of young people in the 6th grade. I guess they're still out in the hallway. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to ask the individuals that are behind me if they would introduce themselves and give a very, very brief description about their department. So brief that, Paul, can you be brief?
I'll sure try. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you all. My name is Paul Graziano. I'm the Housing Commissioner for the City of Baltimore and also the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Baltimore City. So we operate all the housing programs, whether it be public housing, Section 8, code enforcement. A hot issue lately is the mortgage foreclosure crisis, and we can talk about that a little bit later as questions arise. The only thing I'll say there very quickly is if you have a problem with your mortgage, call our 311 number. They'll put you in touch with people to give you some help.
Hi, I'm Doug McCoach. I'm the Director of Planning for Baltimore City. I'm happy to be here tonight. It's a great community. Simply put, the Department of Planning is responsible for helping guide the regeneration and strengthening Baltimore's communities in conjunction with the city's capital investment program, so that we can make sure that where we're investing money in our city is coordinated with the aims of communities.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Christopher Carroll, Chief of Parks, representing Baltimore Recreation and Parks Department, and I will keep it short and sweet. We are a very proud member of the Mayor's Cleaner and Greener initiative and are all about increasing the livability and better welfare and assets in recreation and parks for all citizens. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Josh Sharfstein from the Health Department in Baltimore. Our vision is a healthy Baltimore. We do everything from inspecting restaurants to testing for sexually transmitted diseases. although as we like to say, generally not at the same time.
Good evening. I am Shirley Williams, the Acting Director of the Department of Public Works. The Department of Public Works is responsible for the operation and maintenance of city buildings and city fleet, for the collection and disposal of solid waste, recycling, and bulk trash, and for the operation, construction, and maintenance of the water, wastewater, and stormwater systems.
Good evening. I'm Alfred Fox, Director of Transportation. We're responsible for the maintenance and repair of all city streets, sidewalks, street lighting. We're responsible for traffic signals, traffic signage. Most of the signage you see around here comes from the Department of Transportation. Also, we're currently engaged as the lead agency for snow removal.
Good evening. I'm Fred Bielfeld, Commissioner for the Police Department, Baltimore City.
Wow, that is brief for Fred.
Good evening. I'm Donald Heinbach. I'm currently the Acting Chief of Operations for the Fire Department. Tonight I'm representing Acting Fire Chief Gregory Ward. In addition to providing fire suppression and emergency medical services to the citizens of Baltimore, we have some community initiatives. Our home visit program is responsible for providing thousands of smoke detectors free of charge to the citizens. If anyone needs a smoke detector, we have firefighters and an inspector in the back that will take an application for a smoke detector. And we're involved in this community to minimize the hazards from hazardous materials that go through the community, and we've developed a real good partnership with the South Baltimore industrial community. And I'll leave it go at that. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mary Slope, representing Karen Sicknick, who coordinates and directs workforce development initiatives for Baltimore City residents, which include the employers and also job seekers. One of the things that I'd like to highlight tonight is YouthWorks, which is a summer employment initiative, and we are taking applications right now through March 28th. So if you know of a young person between the ages of 14 and 21 who's interested in working this summer, please, we have literature on our table about where you can register and applications. Michael Wells is manning the table, and Mike, if you would just wave your hand in the back, I see you. You certainly should see him about any employment needs you may have this evening or summer programs. Thank you.
Hello, Ben Franklin, students, faculty, parents, staff, and guests. My name is John Stewart. I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Baltimore City Commission on Aging. We provide services to the 110,000 older adults, their family members, and caregivers throughout the city. And we're here today with staff. There's a table outside. If you know of any older adult who needs help with energy assistance, we're here to help you with that.
Good evening. My name is Phil Krosky, representing the Baltimore Development Corporation in place of Jay Brody. I am the West Team Director, responsible for all of development and economic development efforts west of Charles Street to the county line. The Baltimore Development Corporation specializes in the expansion of the tax base and in creating and growing jobs, and we're happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. And I want to just touch on 2 points, and then we're going to really open it up. And that is, on yesterday, I met with the federal delegation because the city every year presents a list of priorities for the city of Baltimore and how and what we need for our federal representatives to help us in at the federal government level. And I met with Senator Mikulski and John Sarbanes, Congressman Ruppersberger had a back operation. He couldn't be there. And Senator Ben Cardin, we met with the week before because he couldn't be there. But just to share with you the theme of the focus for the city in trying to gain support from our federal representatives are in line with a cleaner, greener, healthier, safer, and smarter city. And so we made requests for safe and stable neighborhoods, building a healthy city, high-wage jobs, building and sustaining healthy neighborhoods, and creating a cleaner and greener city. As you know, the General Assembly session is in now, and we're using the same theme, the requests that we've made to the governor and the legislator, as well as with our whole crime-fighting efforts. We have several pieces of legislation in the General Assembly dealing with gun violence and reducing illegal guns in the city. And so that process is going on as we speak. Just to give you a sense of the general theme, let me introduce Deputy Mayor Andy Frank, who is with us today, who heads up and works with our agencies under Neighborhood and Economic Development. Along with him, and he stood up as a community representative from the southern area, is Chris Thomas Cuddy, who's the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Fire, and I don't see Deputy Mayor Salima Salamarat, but one of her assistant deputy mayors is here, Janie McCullough, from her shop, Human Development Agency. And I'm not sure, but I don't see anybody else. We have a number of other support agencies that are here with us today. I want to acknowledge somebody before we begin and ask him to stand and turn around so people can put a face by a name, and that's Reggie Scriver. If you could stand up for a second, Reggie. We opened up a Blue Code shelter, and there's a whole team of people who are working on this shelter. This is part of our plan to end homelessness in the next 10 years. And his team, along with the health department under the leadership of Diane Galber and others, have been working hard with us with our shelter that we created, along with the overflow shelters. And the people are working day and night, 7 days a week in some cases. But I share this with you because what we're finding is that the objective in this 10-year plan is to provide housing first, affordable housing for families and individuals, along with opportunities in job markets as well. But I wanted to acknowledge Reggie Scriver, who works with Commissioner Graziano. So let's get started.
Mayor, could I just add one thing to that? Because you urged me to do it quickly, and I left out a whole section of my Reggie's shop not only has been doing a terrific job with that homeless effort, but also oversees the whole range of human service areas, the Head Start program, close to $30 million a year, the daycare program, the Energy Assistance Office, human service centers throughout the city, and the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week emergency response. And in my zeal to get through quickly, I left out a whole section, and I just want to acknowledge that Reggie's covering all different fronts there. So.
Thank you, Paul. So now we want to hear from you, your ideas, your concerns, and how we can really work together. So Cliff, you want to give the...
Yes, Madam Mayor. Before we start...
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call up the next speakers, and I just want to remind you that when you come up and speak, if you have specific concerns, I'm going to direct you to the back. We have 2 escorts that's going to escort you out into the hallway so you can input your concern in our 3-in-1 system. Next 5. Okay, we have Linda Stewart, Kurt McKean, Maxie Davis, Ann Robinson, and Stephen Hurth.
Hi. I'd just like to get your comment on the fluctuating water bills, and then I would also like to know if you'd like to meet with me about the quality of water that I'm receiving at my house on Curtis Avenue personally, and talk about it later.
Okay, your first question was about the fluctuation of the water bills?
Yeah. How they can go from $40 one quarter, which is below the minimum, up to $800 the next quarter without a leak.
Well, we need to find out. I mean,
I've been trying for 2 years.
I've had a hearing. Several properties.
Excuse me.
I got an email from somebody.
Yes, that's me.
Was that you?
That's me.
You had a business and also some properties.
Yes.
And I know I forwarded to Shirley.
Yeah, and I have not gotten no answers from anybody.
Okay. And this has been going on for how long?
2 years.
That's what I
and
thought.
I also have some other people here that on my street that also have same problems I do. And
is any Miss Williams? Is anybody here from wastewater?
Brian Samuels is here.
Can Brian, are you familiar with this? She says it's been going for 2 years. I believe I forwarded the email to you. Can you come up front, because it's hard to. I mean, this is on 25.
Yeah, we got the emails and information, and the billing section has been going over the bills to make sure all the accounts are right. So far, we haven't found any glitches in the accounts. Once we get it all settled, Ms. Taylor's been, I assume you've been.
Yes, I've been waiting since the August 22nd hearing I had at City Hall for answers, and it's like everybody forgot me.
Well, I think we can only respond to your request, not a bunch of other addresses that were included.
This is taxpayers' dollars. We're
Right.
paying $9,000 for a water fountain down our park that doesn't even work, for a water fountain. That's our tax dollars.
The water fountain's not ours, but we don't do the water.
Southwestern High School had about $172,000 worth of water bills last year for, it wasn't more than about 172 students, I think, or if it was even that, I forgot offhand. $172,000 worth of water to supply one school.
So you have this information. We'll follow up. I'm going to get involved specifically. I will.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll make sure somebody on my staff gets information as well. I'm not aware of the water fountain at the school.
All right.
Is anybody here from the schools? Who's here from the school? Oh, it's in the park. It's part of the city. And? Who's paying it? So is that under Recreation and Parks?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that is under Recreation and Parks. I would ask if anyone has called that into the 311 system. I see those every 2 weeks, and to be quite honest, this is the first time I've seen or heard of one specifically for that location.
I'm going to get copies of it because I understand from Councilman Reisinger that everything had been forwarded to DPW. So do you have copies of it? Okay. All right. We're going to get copies and follow up. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Dixon. My name is Kurt Monklin. I've been a resident of Curtis Bay for 10 years now, and I'm a property owner. I'm responsible for managing about 72 apartments and a few houses. So my concerns are property owner related. I do want to echo Linda Stewart's comments about the water department. I'm as well having problems with that. I've received bills as much as $1,200 for a single property. I've requested a hearing in writing, and I've been told by the city that I need to wait for a response, which I have not received. But in the meantime, I'm receiving last legal final notices threatening the tax lien sale. So I'm doing everything in my power to resolve the matter, and I'm somebody who likes to pay my bills on time. That's the first concern. The second concern I have has been ongoing for quite some time regarding the Sheriff's Department on the topic of evictions. The department has been, in my opinion, very disorganized. I've actually had meetings with people in that department, and I was treated very rudely. Some of the concerns are if, for example, my deputy is on vacation, I need to wait until she gets back from vacation before an eviction can be performed. There's no one to fill her place. You know, if I have to call between 3 and 4 o'clock to schedule the evictions, and the phones are constantly busy. It's almost impossible to get through. So I'd like to speak with somebody regarding that department as well. Thank you for your time, and thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you. And if you can make sure we get that information, and you also know the new procedures as far as evictions is concerned.
I appreciate those procedures. They've been very productive, and the neighborhoods are much cleaner. Thank you.
Ms. Williams, can you, because I need to be educated on this hearing process. When someone requests a hearing, what's the procedure?
The problem may be the length of time. We have a number of people requesting hearings, but you should not have to wait for more than about 60 days before you get a response. So Brian will get the name of that individual and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maxie Davis, and I'm a member of the Mount Winers community over off of Hollins Ferry Road. and I'm not really sure if I could address you, but I've been keeping in close contact with CSX, and they have been responding to some of the things I've asked, like picking up the trash. Mount Winans is sort of covered by 2 railroad tracks within 4 blocks. And it was really filthy. On April 27th last year, I did call them. Now, my concern, well, my thing with you is I have asked them to please put up sound barriers in our neighborhood. We have trains going by all times, day and night. So they tell me that Jason French in your office, but he hasn't been calling me back. So
Jason French.
Yes.
No, he's with CSX.
Yeah, but he's in the mayor's office, right?
No, he's actually the governmental person. He's not in the mayor's office.
Okay. Well, is there any way?
He works for CSX.
Yes, he told me that, but I thought maybe he had some contact with you.
Well, tell us what the issue is, and then we can follow up with CSX.
With your help and anyone else, CSX told me I had to
So
call.
you made requests for sound barriers?
Sound barriers in our neighborhood. It's awful. So if anything you can do for us to help us get those sound barriers, we'd appreciate it. Put some fire under Jason's thing.
Mr. Fox will follow up on that. Right. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Ann Robinson, and I'm president of the Mount Winans Community Association. We have many issues, but I guess the main issue that I'd like to address with you tonight is the boarded up public housing. Last March, we were told that the city was going to board them up. That happened. They've been boarded up. And then in December of last year, of 2006, they started renovating some on Ridgely Street. So I was real concerned about what was happening there since they were boarded up. And when we had the meeting in March, they said that those few were going to be renovated and people were going to be moved in. But the others that are dispersed throughout the community were going to be demolished. They had no idea when that was going to happen. Now, that's an eyesore. First of all, when you come into our community on Highlands Ferry Road, you have a group of them, all boarded up, cemented up. We're trying, we're kind of slow. We're just getting this community association started, and we're slowly doing this, but we certainly would like to know, and we certainly would like to invite you out to take a walk through our community. I've talked with Cliff. Angela has been out. Cliff is going to get some people to come through. Mr. Reisinger is going to come through, and we're going to do a walkthrough so that they can see. And I'd certainly like you to come out along with them, and so you can see exactly what our community is, what it needs, lots of things. So the most important thing are the boarded up public housing.
Mr. Graziano, can you touch on that?
Sure. There are 572 units of public housing in that area, including the Westport Homes, Westport Extension, and the Mount Winans. We actually are demolishing 232 units that have been vacated at the Westport Homes Extension. That process has already started and will continue over the next several months. We are making assessments of there are a much smaller number of units in the Mount Winans area. I think there are about 80 or so that we're looking at right now, building by building, to determine whether we can renovate them or whether they need to be demolished. We know some number of them will be demolished. But I will, I don't know if Jameen Bryan is here. She's right there. Yeah, maybe Jameen, you could speak with Ms. Robinson about our plans there. But the first priority is to knock down the largest site, which is 232 units, and then we will move into the Mount Winans and make a building-by-building assessment of what's going on. But either way, we're either going to get them renovated and reoccupied or demolished or conveyed to the city's Project 5000 program.
And I'll make sure that Angela and Cliff sets up the tour and that I'm able to attend.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Steve Hurlth. I'm representing the Mall Park St. Paul Improvement Association, one of the best kept secrets in Baltimore City. I originally came here to talk about CO.
Ed paid you to say that?
He's part of the reason why I'm here. I originally came here to talk about COP. I'm tickled pink with Southwestern District, and if I could put a plug in for the NSU unit, Southwestern District, I'd like to do so. My president called me up earlier, and I thought with what he asked me to do, the president of the association, Romeo Santos, takes precedent. We have a young principal in Mall Park Elementary Middle School who is trying his darndest to bring the quality of education up. He has been to the association meetings. He has approached us, and we have ran articles in the paper and our newsletters for this young man. He has made himself available to us, and we have with him, and we're grateful for the partnership. Do you ever foresee in the future having an educational program for young parents who are disappearing and leaving their children left alone? They have no representation from the parents, from the community, and it's a shame. They're almost an endangered species. Do you foresee an educational process in the future trying to get the parents involved with the schools?
Well, you know, there's a number of efforts that, and so you mean that they have
they don't come. They do
don't
not
come and
they do not participate.
Yeah,
and it's not for lack of trying on his part. And this is across the board, not only in my community, through other communities with walking COP. Yeah. Children are run loose at night without parent supervision, past the curfew. And I'm not pointing the finger at Baltimore City Police, sir. You guys are overtaxed, and I'm the first one to say that. They are doing their darndest, and I appreciate what they're doing. We put responsibility on all these people up on your board. We do not put responsibility on the parents, and it's about time we start pointing the finger back. These children, young ones, need responsibility.
No, they do, and there's a number of efforts to really try to engage parents more in school. So we are working with the school system through Ben, which is the Baltimore Education Network System, trying to go out and really educate parents. The CEO just hired a new coordinator to work with them. You know, we're working with after-school program, but I know it is difficult, and I was at, it's been probably less than a year, though, but I was at the school when this came up before. So, I mean, it's really a matter of trying to get maybe even community people to, in some cases, go door to door to talk with some of the parents to find out what the problem is, why they aren't involved in their kids' education. Because we can come up with all these incentives we want, but you're right, they need to be there and be involved, and it's going to take all of us to work on that.
Thank you, ma'am.
We're going to call the next five. Kathy McLean, Cleo Walker, Christine Day, Giovanni Moore, Ms. Karen Randolph.
Good evening, Mayor Dixon.
How you doing?
I'm Kathy McLean from Cherry Hill Trust, and you probably are aware of the fact that we're closing in on completing our comprehensive neighborhood plan. And as we looked at the planning for our neighborhood, we look at development that's happening around us. There was a $99 million TIF that was approved for Turner. The Waterview Overlook, however, 3.5 years ago came to us and said we're looking for $7 million. We were in support of that, but they've not gotten their TIF yet, and I'm questioning why they haven't gotten it yet.
Well, Turner hasn't gotten his TIF yet.
What we've heard is that it's been approved. Does it take 3 years to get it approved?
It has not been approved yet. And what other one are you talking about? You talking about the Waterview?
Mm-hmm.
The Waterview was approved. Yeah, it was approved maybe about 8 to 10 months ago.
Okay, I met with the developer last night. He said it's not been approved. He got a letter of sort of like an IOU, but has not actually.
You talking about Womack?
Yes.
That's not the case. I don't know if you are.
Yeah.
We're
Oh, that's
working-
HCD?
Yeah, we're working with the developer on that. He does have an approval for a note, a TIF note, and has some technical concerns about how that would work. We've been working through that with the Finance Department, Mr. Molesky and his team, with the developer. But there is an approval for that TIF note. But we're continuing to work with them on making that.
Because work on the property has stopped.
No, I understand.
And it's an eyesore for us because
Right.
it's overgrown again, and
Right, yeah.
so a timetable.
Well, but part of that's not our responsibility. That's his
I
responsibility
understand
to
that.
take
Right.
care of
I
that.
understand that. When I questioned him about it, he said it was because he did not get his TIF.
No, that's
No,
not
he
so.
has that TIF note authority.
Thank you.
But I'll make a note to call him.
No, he still has the responsibility of maintaining the property as he moves forward. I know he probably has a gap.
Good evening, Mayor Dixon. My name is Cleo Walk, and I currently chair Cherry Hill Trust Corporation. And on several occasions, you have mentioned that affordable housing should be included in new development. I need you to clarify what affordable housing is. My concern is that low-income and extremely low-income residents not be displaced and be able to remain in their communities.
Well, I mean, there's a medium that we go by federal guidelines that determines the income, and Paul Graziano can speak on that, but there's a federal guideline that we base on low to moderate income.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
The federal standards look at percentages of what's something called area median income. And so basically they look at people who are 80% or below of the area median income. So if the area median income is a certain number, it's 80% of that number. And then for lower income, it's 50%, half of that number. And then for very low income, it's 30% of that number. So we have actually in the inclusionary housing ordinance that was passed by the City Council last fall, we are close to finalizing the implementation rules on that. We'll actually articulate different income tiers for projects. So if a project has 30 or more units and it's receiving a subsidy from the city or a major rezoning, the developer would be required to provide either 20 or 10% respectively of the units in those affordability tiers that I just described below 80% area median income. And it provides, there's a lot of detail in there about how and where and what. And that applies to home ownership and rental housing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I have a compliment and a concern. I am an environmental scientist, both by profession and at heart, and I wanted to commend you on your sustainability initiatives. Very impressed by that. My concern is in reference to our Recreation and Parks Department. I have been active. I've lived in Baltimore my whole life. I've been active in several community associations and Friends of Parks groups. And during my lifetime, I have seen the maintenance, the condition of our local parks deteriorate quite considerably. I've done a considerable amount of research and have been working with Chris Delaporte, who is a former director of Recs and Parks, on this issue. And my understanding is that the consensus nationwide is that financially there should be a 3.5 to 1 ratio in terms of development to maintenance, while in Baltimore we have a 1-to-1 ratio. We have been told for years that the money simply isn't there to do a lot of the maintenance in the parks, and apparently that isn't the case. And I wondered if you could tell me if there's any plans to change that ratio of funds.
Well, Chris Davenport is also a great advisor to myself and members of my staff as well. And I understand that the formula that he projects or sees within the budget of Recreation and Parks, and particularly parks, is a 1-to-1. Part of the problem has been over the years is that Recreation and Parks budget has been mainly out of the general fund. So if there's any reduction in property tax or home sales, I mean, it relied heavily on that, which then over a 20, 30-year period, you start playing catch-up. And so now we're actually putting, through bonds and other mechanisms, creative ways, trying to increase that and put more emphasis on maintenance as we continue to make the city greener. So we're slowly but surely making some of those changes based on his recommendations and others. And hopefully as we move forward in the direction of a greener city, we can do a 3-to-1. But it's starting off slow, and as we continue to increase the tax base and other efforts, and Chris can speak to this as well, we do have to do a better job. And because we have great parks in our city, but they have deteriorated, and if it weren't for, in some cases, some of the efforts of some of the friend groups, et cetera, then some of them wouldn't be as lovely as they are. And we recognize that, and we are working hard to increase the city's effort in that role. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I do, and I don't think there's much more I can add to that. Obviously, maintenance is of a great concern to me as the Parks Chief. I would like to make you aware of a few things. One, to encourage you to continue to work with our friends groups. We have started, since I got there, something that didn't exist before, which was an umbrella friends group, meetings, which brings all our friends groups together so they can learn from one another. We'd like to continue that because I think in the past we did not empower our friends groups enough, so we're slowly trying to change that history. We've also just completed and are in final training for the first comprehensive maintenance master plan for parks specifically. It's based on national standards. So while we're certainly exploring for more resources, we're putting in place means now so that we can manage those resources when we find them. But I'd really encourage you to stay involved. In fact, I have one of my staff members in the back, Mr. Dallas, would love to get further information from you.
Okay. And just to note, there are a number of capital projects that we are currently working on. One is the Morrow Park Recreation Center, as well as the Clifton Park Tree and Park Master Plan, the Gwynns Falls Trail Enhancement, the Curl Park Tree Master. So we are slowly but surely, and he's been a great advocate, and he really makes it very plain and clear, and hopefully through the leadership of a new director in coming in line with that effort. We also, I think it's sometime in April, plan to go out to Chicago. I think Chicago has the best plan.
They're beautiful.
I was there as city council president visiting Chicago, looking at that. And so we want to get some ideas and best practices in other cities and bring them back as well.
Thank you for your efforts. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you tonight? Fine. My name is Karen Randolph. I'm a lifelong resident of the Cherry Hill neighborhood and currently a homeowner. I've been there for 23 years. And in Cherry Hill, the public housing has been demolished. Several parcels. We have several large parcels of vacant land. And my question tonight is, does the Housing Authority have any plans, any timeline? What is going to happen with that land? I would love to stay in the neighborhood. I would love to stay in the city. Is it going to be offered for people who want to possibly build private homes? And can we have a timeline? I know of one parcel, someone brought it to my attention, it's been vacant for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 4 parcels down there that have been cleared. One of the sites has been rebuilt with some senior housing. That's Penrose Properties. Abutting that is another site called Fisher's Cove that has been vacant. That's been tied up in some litigation with the Thompson consent decree. There's another site, C.K. Anderson, which has some serious subsurface conditions. It's really not a buildable site. And then there's a last piece, which is just up the hill from that. What we are looking at is beyond the consent decree issues, which really limit our ability to do certain construction there. We do want to look to see if there's a market maybe to do some home ownership in that area on some of those parcels that, other than the one that's not buildable. So it's something that we are beginning to take a closer look at. But it really has been tied up. Well, first of all, we had to get the money to demolish. The last piece was just demolished last year, and that had been vacant for many years. But we had to get the funding to do the demolition, and we were able to do that through the affordable housing program. So now we want to look at whether we can develop that site in particular, perhaps for some home ownership.
Are we looking at any kind of timelines?
Well, it's like a lot of things. We're trying to get enough resources together to move it ahead. The first thing was to get rid of the blight, and now the next thing is to see how much money we can put together to do a development on that site. I hope over the next few months we'll be able to do some analysis and determine that, this is frankly a very difficult time to be building new housing with the funding cuts and with the market conditions. So we're going to have to look at that a lot more closely, do a market analysis, and determine whether we can feasibly build a house there that we could sell for the cost of building it.
Okay, what about the possibility of selling the land in lots? That is how Cherry Hill began. People came in and purchased small lots and built homes.
No, that's something we definitely need to look at as well.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Mayor, everyone on the panel, and everyone in attendance. My name is Giovanni Moore. I represent a new educational idea called Food for Life Supreme. And our main concern is some of the things we brought up this evening with the development of our youth and in the way of health, whether it be obesity or the other things that are taking place in diabetes with our young children. And we're actually an educational system that has been set up from the standpoint of maximizing health. We deal with the idea of utilizing food as a medicine for the body. It can be the strongest medicine or the slowest poison. So we teach the youth from the standpoint of eating for their blood type, the proper food combinations, as well as all aspects of preparing the meals as well. Food for Life Supreme is actually a health supportive culinary arts school. This one portion of a university we have called the University of Arts and Logistics of Civilization. Now, we've had a continuous success rate across the country with programs we've set up in different cities. And we're looking to bring those programs here to Maryland, to Baltimore specifically, to assist and address some of the ideas with our youth and their development, as well as the mastering the aspects of health. And that's not the only thing we deal with. We teach in every aspect from agriculture and farmland to architecture, to engineering, to brick masonry, every aspect that it takes to found up, to make a civilization and a society sound. We teach them on all levels of those aspects, and then we have extended classrooms where they can physically master the principles that they've learned in the classroom. If I was able to, I'd like to leave some information with yourself where you could look a little further into some of the things we're doing, as well as go to the website and explore it, because these are the things that we see that would be beneficial for Baltimore and the development of our youth.
Yes, thank you.
Would I be able to?
Are you currently in schools here?
No, ma'am, not at this
Okay.
time. Yes, ma'am, everything is right there.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the next 5 people. I just want to remind you, when you voice your concern, please see one of our escorts in the back, and they'll take you out to the 3-1 system that we have set up. Mr. Robert Voice, Carol Escherman, Betty Bland Thomas, Kathleen Hogan, and Angela Bethea Spearman.
Hi, I'm Robert Voigt, and glad to see you. I work for 5 different landlords, and they're trying to keep the neighborhood clean. On Fairhaven, Spruce, Poplin, and they get me to clean up the alleys, because they get fined and stuff, and people dropping stuff off in the alleys. And, I think somebody should be coming in the alleys and maybe once a month or something, come back there and start cleaning back there, because it's a mess back there. And that's on Fairhaven, Spruce, Poplin. Plus, I clean up Fairhaven, right, the streets, and they put trash cans down on Pennington Avenue, and I wanted to see if we could get them on Fairhaven.
When you mentioned about the alleys, is it homes on that street where the alleys are?
Yes.
And is this where people put their trash out as well?
Yeah, they throw their trash back there. I mean, it's causing a lot of rat problems. You see rats like this, they're real big.
Right. If you can give us the addresses and we'll put it in the 311 system, take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine, thank you. Good evening. I'm Carol Eshelman with the Brooklyn Curtis Bay Coalition, and
Good evening, everyone from the cabinet and all the staff members, too, that have come out to help tonight. I want to thank you, first of all, for recognition of all the hard work that everyone here has been doing to bring these communities together. And I really just want to praise everyone that's out tonight and working so hard. And then I got a couple of advertisements, so to speak. One is our Going Green calendar. We had this started this summer and kind of came right in with you all. And also want to recognize the commissioner and his help, and Commissioner Graziano, for putting together the 8 new green townhouses that we're going to be doing. That'll be home money, so they'll be affordable, the first affordable green townhouses. So anybody that's looking to buy a house, come talk to us. We're going to have 8 brand new ones going up pretty soon. And also, we have bins for sale. We're probably the only place in town right now with recycle bins. So if anybody's looking for the 18-gallon recycle bins, we happen to have a whole, still about 100 and some left in our offices. So stop by and pick some up. We've discovered that people can find Brooklyn and Curtis Bay, because when they want to get bins, they're coming over here, and they're coming from all over the city, so it's a really good lesson. One of our big challenges that we've been struggling with lately, we've really been trying to turn our attention more to economic development with our urban renewal plan, and we're kind of hoping to get the Main Street designation, but if not, one way or the other, we want to get our commercial corridors up, and we're having a lot of trouble with businesses that open up illegally. They don't have all the right permits. We're in an urban renewal plan, but for some reason, they don't get flagged early enough, and then it seems to take us a lot of time and effort to close them down. We've got an illegal used furniture store going on right now. We've got several junk car lots that are sprouting up on Patapsco and Chesapeake. And so I don't know the answer. We're glad to be the eyes and ears, but like to find out who all we should be talking to continue to get, and we've had a lot good response, don't take me wrong,
Right.
but it's just one that I know everybody's struggling with.
Thank you. Would that come under the commercial?
Yes, we will work with you. If I can get your information, actually Larissa Salamakis out there, we can get your information and work with you. We did receive your application for the main streets, and we actually received 9 applications. So
I know
you're
it's
one
tough.
of the 9.
I know it's tough competition.
But I think what we could do is definitely work closely with code enforcement to see and take a walk out and visit and walk the blocks in the area that you're speaking of.
Great.
We'd love
Thank
to
you
do
very
that.
much. Thank you.
It's okay. Good evening, Mayor, panelists, and everyone is out tonight. My name is Betty Bland Thomas. I'm from the historic community called Sharp Leadenhall. And I wanted to say to everyone here that our city does work. We just got to work it. One of the things that's occurred in Sharp Leadenhall, with the help of the planning department, Paul Graziano, we have a master plan. But I'm a little concerned that we weren't as knowledgeable at the time as the plan was being developed what zoning codes actually met until we start experiencing some difficulties. Mayor, I want you to know that we're very concerned in Sharp Leadenhall, and our vision of our community, we were looking for more affordable housing. And affordable housing, to me, Paul, I don't talk in the terms of area medium income. I talk real terms, actual dollars, workforce persons that are making anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000, being able to afford a home in the city. And those who can afford even $100,000 homes and or $150,000 homes. So I'm really talking about under $200,000 homes. We have 2 incidents where developers are very interested in properties in Sharp Leadenhall, and they want to put in high-density units. This is going to change the complexity of what we have worked for the last 5 years to save, and have really taken some action steps as a community, ourselves, and partnering with a developer to save affordable housing, to now have this type development come in that will destroy everything that we have built. We see the city as a city of jewels, one of your terms that you used during your inauguration, and we think Sharp Leadenhall's community is one of those bright gems, and that it has such historic significance that it needs the attention of the departments that are here. DPW, ABC box problem has been a thorn in my side for the longest time. They're too small for the area that they're in. We would like to see housing there. Fred, you and I have talked often. We need detectives in Sharp-Leadenhall to get rid of those small-time drug dealers that we had. Mr. Fox, we still have broken sidewalks. We have a number of seniors, 3 historic churches that most folks walk to because they can't park to get there, and they're sometimes falling. You know, Sharp-Leadenhall Park or Solo Gibbs Park has not had any improvements for over 40 years. We're in dire need, and when your convention comes to town, we want to be a bright star. We have the Gwynns Fall Bike Trail going through. Health Commissioner, we're concerned that CSX has not been a good partner to the communities. They have had toxic waste, and we didn't even know the extent of the waste until we heard it on TV. I like what you said earlier, Sheila, about having out-of-the-box creative efforts. Communities are needing empowerment. We know what we need. We need to have access to these panels on a more regular basis so we can coordinate. I like the idea of leveraging some of these big institutions that we have, stadium authorities. They're in our backyard. They don't clean beyond their parking space. We get the bulk of their trash. I want to thank Celeste in helping us try to coordinate things this past summer, but we shouldn't have to struggle to do everything that needs to be done. Gentrification has occurred in Sharp-Leadenhall, and it's occurring at such a frightening level. But I believe, because we have the ear of you, Sheila, that we can work, that we can all live together, high income and low income. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and Mayor, could I just, Betty, I tried to call you back today. Your mailbox was full. Can you call my office tomorrow and we'll speak? Because I know you wanted to talk about a few of these issues. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. I would like to thank the whole panel and the mayor for coming to our community. My name is Kathleen Hogan, and I'm the president of the Concerned Citizens for a Better Brooklyn. I've worked with a lot of your people in the past, Angela, Celeste, Cliff, and they have been very helpful. And some of the people on your panel I've worked with also. And we just want to thank you so much for coming out to our community and listening to our concerns of what's going on. I would have been more prepared, but I'm recovering from an accident, and so I wasn't fully prepared for this. But I want to thank you so much for coming out and hearing our concerns on a one-to-one. Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing. And Betty, Angela sent me a note about, since it's a multiple of issues, they've created a neighborhood cabinet, which they bring the agencies together to talk about a specific area where they're all working together on multiple issues. So she can create that, and this can happen in any community.
Good evening, Mayor Dixon.
Good evening.
Panel, everybody. A couple of issues. One is Swan and Emerson Avenue, where there's been a traffic pattern change, but no notification to the community. And when you go in the county, I work in Montgomery County, anything that's going on, you know when it's going to happen, there's a date that's posted and all of that. They took, Swan Avenue was 3 lanes, left turn and straight, right turn. The sign changed, people are turning because there's no, I mean, this is what you're used to doing. You're used to coming out of Old Frederick Road, going on Emerson Avenue, being able to make a left, but 2 signs. Now one sign says straight, one sign saying left, instead of the straight sign being left and straight that nobody was notified about. That sign needs to be changed back to left and straight, because really, you don't need 3 lanes for 1 lane to just turn into what we was all doing just fine before. And I think that's a concern that some of the cabinet members take it upon themselves and their staff to make changes and do what they think is best for your community without consulting with the community. That's not appreciated. And that's a couple of staff members. Then you have parking as an issue. We pay for parking, and we've raised this issue many times under O'Malley's administration, and now we're bringing it to your attention. Sunday, of course, we have a coliseum that sits in our community known as a church. We pay for parking. Once we move our cars to go to our churches and wherever we want to go, we have nowhere to park. Parking doesn't open up till like 9 o'clock. The first service of that church is 7:30. They sit out there from 7:30, Mayor Dixon, and they top our parking till after 3:30 in the afternoon. We call 311. We call another number that goes directly to the colonel. They tell us to call back to 311 so it can be posted on city stats. But the bottom line is nobody's ticketing and towing. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to get in our neighborhood. You're going to have to tow. And they have an attitude when you call.
I wasn't aware of the first one. I guess I haven't used that street in a while where you could make the double turn. I don't know if you are aware. And then,
No,
Mr.
I'm
Fox, can you talk about, because I thought there were some procedures in place as far as residential permit parking, and even if there's a church within the area, about how long cars can stay there. I mean, New Psalmist does have a number of other areas within that community
that they're
to park.
not using.
First, on the first issue about the Swan, normally when we do traffic pattern changes, it's in response to either a complaint or a request from a neighborhood, or there's something that's going on in the neighborhood that requires us to go and do a study, because we don't arbitrarily go out there and just change the traffic pattern. We do a study to find out whether or not the traffic change is feasible, and you're right. If there's going to be a change, then the community needs to be notified, and normally we would notify the community through our neighborhood group, liaison group, and through our traffic division that there's going to be a change made, and give you a time frame in which the change is going to be made. On the second item, normally when we have parking issues, particularly around a church, we especially in a neighborhood, you have the neighborhood residential parking permit procedures that we follow. And if there's a complaint, you should be calling and talking to our traffic division, not our traffic division, but our safety division, and they'll send agents out there to assess the situation. And normally, as a courtesy, they'll go inside the church and they'll ask the minister or someone to have their congregational members go out and move their car as a courtesy. If that doesn't occur, then they'll start the ticketing. But normally we try to work with the neighborhood and the church to create some happy medium in approaching that situation. But we will reinforce the
in a permit area,
residential.
Mr. Fox, how long can they park?
Normally it's 2 hours, I think, right?
Not at all in Uplands. From 8 a.m. to 12 midnight, there's to be no parking at all in our streets. Now you have an Area 27 parking permit.
Okay.
And the agents come 2 or 3 hours later, and they barely ticket, and no one is towing at all.
Now, in as far as towing, there has to be posted that towing would take place. Mr. Wallenoff, stand up.
Mr. Fox, well, somebody from your team might want to go out and meet with the congregation, the church, to share with them about the permits and what's required, and ask them to accommodate the people who pay for those permits. I mean, I understand people will come and park, but 2 hours is one thing, but all day is another. I think we have to be understanding for the people who live there, particularly since they have the west side parking lot, and they're still parking down in the Uplands properties.
Okay, we have the next five. Joe Alwyn, Jeffrey Barnes, E. Tyler, Rocky Mullen, and Gail and Bill.
Good evening, Mayor.
Evening.
My name is Joe Alwyn. Excuse me, I'm board president for Arundel Habitat for Humanity, and we'd like to thank you and all your administration, all your cabinet members, our councilmen. Particular thank Kathy Hogan from the Brooklyn Better Business because of all the support we've received coming into South Baltimore. We have completed 16 homes so far on the Jeffrey Jack Stahl area of Brooklyn, and have home ownership in all those 16 homes.
That's great.
Best thing you ever did for this community was make Deputy Commissioner Bealfield the commissioner. We are so happy. Thank you.
Well, you know, that was a great note to close on. I think the agencies would agree too. Thank you, and that's always encouraging because people do work hard. They're very committed. Are we perfect? No. Is right, you know, right now in my mind I have one agency in thought, and that's water and wastewater, because of tonight's discussion and just the last 2 weeks. But there are great people in all of our departments. I want to thank all the residents and businesses for coming out. We will not let these issues that you brought to our attention go in vain. We will address them. If you don't have them addressed, please, I will let my email person who, you know, I have an email person, I'll let her know that if you don't hear anything, that she will receive an email saying, as a follow-up to your neighborhood conversation,